Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a good day. My name is Hilal and this will be the last session of your training program. And in this lesson, we will be talking about presentation skills. As Mr. Abdulaziz said before, it is very important for the new entrepreneurs to know how to pitch their ideas to potential customers or potential investors. So it is essential for you to know how to present your ideas in a way that these possible investors or customers to understand your idea and like your idea. We will start with knowing your audience because the most important part is for your presentation is who you're presenting to. And who you're presenting will determine the structure of your presentation itself. So first you should know your audience and then determine the rest of the presentation around the people that are going to listen to you. Maybe you're gonna present your ideas to possible customers or investors or maybe experts in their field or maybe experts that don't know the specific things about your idea. So when you try to learn about your audience, there are some things that you can do. For example, if you're gonna present your idea to a specific customer, it might be a firm, you can look them up on the internet. You can try to learn what kind of people they are and what are their specific interests. And if you're gonna present your idea to a specific investor, then you should try to see what kind of business are they investing to, so that you can try and shape your presentation to those specific people. And when you start your presentation, and we will talk more about what your presentation should include. But before that, when you start your presentation, you have to introduce yourself, even if the people you're presenting yourself to know you, because it is important for you to form a certain connection with the people you're presenting your idea to, because it is not just about your idea or your business plan, it's also about you. The people you're presenting to should know you, and they should form a connection with you in order to like your idea better, because even if you like a certain business plan themselves, if you don't like the person, if you don't know the person, you might not want to work with them as easily. But you should give a quick introduction yourself. You don't have to make it so long so that people are bored. You don't have to give them your complete CV. You don't have to tell them exactly what you were doing 10 years ago, but you should give them specific qualifications you have in order to properly work with them. What is your specialty? What are you an expert about? Or how did you come to this idea, this business plan that you have? And if you briefly mention those at the start of the meeting and presentation, people will connect with you easily and they will trust your knowledge more. After that, you have to explain your purpose. Before going into any details, you have to give them a general idea of what they're going to listen to. What is your idea? Why are you making this presentation? And do you want to work with them? Do you want them to know about your idea? Do you want to teach them something? You should explain your purpose at the very beginning after introducing yourselves, so that people will know what to expect from the rest of your presentation. And after explaining your main purpose and the scope of the presentation in the beginning, it will give you the advantage, because your listeners will know what will come from your presentation. You can give a brief explaining of what you're going to talk about, what will come after that, and this will also relax your listeners because they will know what to expect from you. Then you should explain the value of your presentation. You should explain shortly what the audience will receive after listening and possibly participating in the presentations. This could be 1 or 2 sentences regarding the main idea you want to explain and what they will receive from it. You should gain the attention of the listeners from the very beginning. During the presentation, yes, I'm listening.
Excuse me, sir. You have some noise again. It affects to your voice. It's disturbing as well. Maybe it's because of your microphone's plug is not plugged in well.
I'm so sorry. I'm not seeing any problems with my microphone as well. I think it's about my computer itself, and I don't know how to fix
It
that.
has something noise. It is being difficult to get your voice.
Okay. Let me see what I can do.
Now the noise doesn't have.
How's it now?
How good?
Okay. If there's any problems further, please notify me. I said you should gain the attention of your listeners from the very beginning of your presentation. During your presentation, it is essential to keep the attention of the audience from the beginning to all the way end. The main way of doing this is to start your presentation with high energy, and possibly you can ask an attention grabbing questions. You might ask them how did they heard from you, or how did you connect, what do they think they will receive from your presentation, and what do they hope to gain from you information-wise. You could ask questions that our audience may not know, as an example, but they will know the answer after listening to the presentation. The feeling of learning something in an easy way, like a presentation, will gather everyone's attention to anything that you are presenting. Okay, and you should know that when you're giving a presentation, that the types of listeners will differ from each other. It is one of the harder things to deal with during the presentation. And the people that are listening to you may have different levels of attention, information, or interest. You should be prepared for questions. They may come from different people with different levels of information or interest to you. And this is usually a problem while presenting because a person who does not know anything regarding the topic you're talking about might ask you a simple question, and you might need to explain much more detailed, basic thing to one person in front of much more people who already know the answer to that question. So what I recommend in that situation is that you try to give the presentation to a group rather than the individuals, because there are many different type of people that are going to listen to you. Some people might try to ask questions all the time without listening to you speak first, or some people might try to disprove you even though you're not saying something to be disproved of. And what you should do is that you should stay calm and stay collected and give your attention to the information that you're trying to give. And a different type of style that you can use is you can try to get the questions after the presentation in order not to disrupt your flow. Or you can try to answer as many questions as possible if the group that you're presenting are not very familiar with the information that you're giving, in order to ease them into the information that they will receive during your presentation. And you should, from the beginning of your presentation, you should provide a summary. You should make sure to summarize the information you will give during the presentation, and possibly before finishing it, you should collect your thoughts and give a brief summary of what you have talked about. This will help clear any misunderstandings without requiring the audience to ask you again and again the same questions. Or it may help those who lost their focus in some part of the presentation, or failed to listen to the parts they should have listened. Giving a summary doesn't have to be from the start or just at the end. You can, if you're giving a more information-based presentation, you can just start at the end of one topic and give a summary that what you have talked about before. And this will help your listeners to digest the information easily. After giving your summary, you should provide your to-dos. What you're gonna do with the presentation, what you're gonna provide them as information-wise. You might say that at the end of the presentation, you will have learned such and such information about this topic. Or you might say that I will tell you these specific information, and then we will interact. I'm going to give you questions and you are going to answer those questions, and we will talk about them later. And if you provide the listeners on what you're going to do or what you're going to expect them to do for you, and this will help your listeners to ready themselves for questions or tasks that.
Yani dinliyorum bir yandan bu şeyleri atıyorum.
I'm sorry. After that, you should know your material. What you're going to present is a specific information of your business plan. And you should know your business plan very well, what you're going to do, what you're hoping to achieve, and how are you going to achieve that goal, which is one of the most important aspects of a business plan. and a presentation of an idea. And you should know your material so well that if someone asks a question relating to your business plan, you should be able to answer them immediately in a clear manner. If you don't know what information you're going to give exactly, or what are your plans, and they're not clear enough, and you will feel overwhelmed with the questions, or you might lose your flow during your presentation. Planning your structure is another important aspect of preparing a presentation. You should always plan the structure of your presentations before even preparing the presentation itself to make sure it makes sense. This will help you control the presentation, and for it to be presented in the most optimum way, you should know your structure very well as well. And the structure of your presentation should include your points that you want to make, the information you're trying to give, and the information that is essential for the potential customers or investors to know in order to understand your business. And your structure should be made in a way that people, after listening to your presentations, should not have to ask parts of your ideas or business. They should be clear, and the layout should be in an order that everyone who is listening will know what you are going to do and how you're going to do, and the timeline of your business plan. And with this structure and the information you're trying to give is readily available to you, you should then start creating your presentation itself with the slides. And the most important thing is to create simple slides with your presentations. You have to give your information in the most simple and basic manner in order to not confuse the people who are listening to you. You should be able to provide them with a simple and clear message with your slides. And if you have to give them very heavy information, you should try to make it simple and break it down in parts as much as you can to make it more digestible, more easily understandable. And that it is also important to create simple looking slides in order to not divert your listeners' attention from you. Because if you saturate your slides with information, too many texts, or too many photographs or images, it will divert the attention of the listener from you. They will not be able to listen to you clearly because they will be looking at the photos. They will try to read the enormous wall of text on the slide, and they won't be able to listen to you as much as you want them to. Another thing that is important for presentation is your information flow should be in an orderly manner. You should not be jumping from one topic to another. You should not give them, for example, if you're gonna talk about 5 specific topics, you should present them one by one in an order. If you give them an example on topic 1, but then jump to topic 3, then give an example on topic 4, they won't be able to collect their thoughts, and they won't be able to understand what you mean clearly. That's why while performing a presentation, you should always present the things in a specific order. You might start from a hard part of the topic, then choose to go easier as you go forward, This will most probably not help the audience understand the topic in a better way. You should start simple. You should explain the information that you have to give, and then go from there and go harder topics as you go on. Then the audience will be able to listen to you and understand the information that you give them. Sketching your slides. What I recommend you to do is that when you are gonna prepare a presentation, what you should do is to gain information about this topic. Even if you're gonna just talk about your business, maybe you're gonna present to an audience that does not know the market you're trying to sell or you're trying to appeal to. That is why you should first give a brief information about you and your business, what you're going to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and the information about those should be presented, like I said, in an order. So it is important for you to sketch your slides beforehand. What I usually do is that I try to gather as much as information as possible, and I will throw them into a slideshare, a presentation that I do just for myself. As much as information, even if it's scattered, it is not complete, I will try to collect as much as information I can. I will write the timelines that I want to do, any ideas that come to my mind, and after that, I will try to put them in an order. Then I will clean them up. I will edit my presentation, and then I will try to make it suitable for the audience that I'm going to present my idea to. And going from that, you should design for your audience. Like I said, the most important part is knowing your audience. What kind of people are you presenting to? What are their information levels? Why are they interested in you, or why they should be interested in your business plan? That is why, after knowing your audience, you should design your audience well. If they require more information for you than the regular listeners of you, you should design your slides to be more informational. If they're just interested in the business aspect of things, you should give them information just specific to the business aspects of things. Or are they, do they like your idea, but they want to know more about you? Then you should present yourself in a manner that is more casual, more focused on yourself. Then what I said before, that you should find the text that you're going to use in your presentation first. What are you going to tell them? What are the texts that you're going to show them? Or what you should include? Maybe you're going into statistics first. You will give more information about numbers. You should first put them in a slide, maybe, or maybe in a Microsoft Word document. You should know what you're going to talk about in a text form. And after that, you determine all of those. You should you should go to designing a presentation. And in the presentation, like I said, you shouldn't oversaturate your slides, but you can enrich your presentation with specific graphics or timelines. It will be more attention catching and less confusing for the people who is gonna listen to you. You can give them a statistic graphics and just the graphics and the numbers it includes, and then you should give the information yourself. Because if you give a graphic on its own and not explain it, it will confuse the listeners. On the other hand, if you give the graphics and put the analysis and the things you're gonna say in a text wall next to it, then people won't be able to listen to you clearly because they will try to both read the text that you're giving them and then listen to you as well. And knowing your output format is an important aspect. I'm specifically trying to tell you about just presentation aspects of it. So we're just gonna go on from the Microsoft PowerPoint slides. But as time goes on, and as you keep pitching your idea to new people, new investors, new customers, you might want to change your output, because sometimes you won't be able to give them a complete slideshow. You won't be able to give them the necessary information or the necessary images you want to show them. And then you can change your output as well. You don't have to always show a presentation. You can just give a speech. You can, and sometimes to possible investors, you might just have to provide them and just text. So you should be ready for that. But in this training, I will specifically just talk about PowerPoint slides. Okay. Now we will go into the specific styles that you should use when preparing a presentation. But before going that, I will request a 10-minute break. And then I will see you at 3. Actually, 3:05 would be better. And then we can go into specific details on what to do in the actual slides. Welcome back, everyone. We can continue our lessons. I have seen in the chat that someone said, I think Steve Jobs' presentations are also a very good example of simplicity. And I agree, because like I said, it's very important for your listeners' focuses to be on you and you only. And if you oversaturate your slides, which I will show you a little bit later, it will be confusing for your listeners, as well as they will lose their focus on you and your topic that you're trying to tell. And now with the presentation style, you should have a consistent style, and it is still you should do this because you don't want to oversaturate your presentation and diverge the focus from yourself. I have given different type of font styles for you to look at. And as you see, if I put too much different fonts on my presentations, maybe it will be harder for your listeners to read the information you've given to them. It will be harder to understand, and they will lose time trying to read the fonts one by one, and they will lose their focus. And having a consistent style also means that you should choose your theme of your slides and stick to that specific style. I tend to do my presentations in dark colors, and I will try to make them have just one specific color scheme, so as to not make it too colorful, too much attention drawing, so as to not make it too colorful and divert the focus of the listeners to the slides itself, because I want them to be listening to me specifically and not be distracted by other colors that are on the slides. Like I said, the color scheme is important for this as well. You can try and choose a color scheme that you like, and you might try to not oversaturate it. You can stick to, for example, a predominantly blue background or predominantly green background. But I also advise against using too much flashy colors, because it will be attention diverting those colors. For example, you do not want a slide full of neon green or neon yellow colors, because it will be very distracting. Also, it will be harder to read on those colors. What I mean by oversaturating is, there is an example of that I tried to make. There are multiple pictures, they're very colorful. And on the left, that I tried to give you an example of an unnecessary wall of text. I have been giving you one sentence slides in this presentation. I'm so sorry. I have lost my slide. I have been trying to give you one specific sentences or examples of those sentences, as not to oversaturate my slides as well. But last Tuesday and Wednesday, we had classes together, and I have saturated my slides with wall of text, if you remember. And the reason I did this, even though now I am saying that you should not do this, is it's because that neither me nor you are native English speakers. So it is harder for us to communicate very easily. And I have put the wall of text in those slides because I wanted you to be able to read the information that I'm giving you, even if you don't understand me. That is why I put many informational sentences or texts in my slides, so that even if you don't understand what I'm saying, you will be able to read those same information that I'm giving you. But when you're presenting a business idea or doing a pitch, you should be doing this. Okay, I have told you about how I design my presentations. I usually put all of the information that I have, all of the things that I'm thinking to do. Then I will cut down on the information. I will make it more simple. I will put simple images behind it if I'm trying to give visual information. I will turn them into graphs, and this part is called editing representation. After you decide what you're going to tell them, what information you're going to give, or what kind of ideas you're going to pitch, you should make a lot of text. You will do a draft of your presentation and then edit your presentation according to your listeners' needs. Maybe the presentation that you have done before has too much information that you don't have to give your specific audience, so you will put those parts out. Or maybe you have realized that you didn't give enough statistics to prove your point. You should make some adjustments to your presentations. You should never make the presentations in, for example, in one sitting. You should return back to your presentations, ideally after a day or two, as to clear your mind and to be able to see it from a different perspective. That is why editing your presentation is important, and I advise you to edit your presentations a couple of times, not just one time, a couple of times, so that you can make the most optimal presentations that you should give. Another point which will be beneficial to you for making a sales pitch or an investor presentation is to time your presentations. Before you give them to your specific audience, you should give the presentations just by yourself or maybe to your family or your friends, just to get feedback from them. You might not want to give your presentations to any people before giving it. In that case, you should make the presentations just for yourself, and you should set the timer as to see how much it will take for you to give those presentations. Maybe then you will realize that your presentation is too short, or maybe it is too long. Then you should go back to editing stage and put more or less slides in your presentations as to make the time most optimal for you and your audience, because maybe you're in a sales pitch and they will give you just 1 hour time. Then you should make your presentations short enough to not expend 1 hour mark, and also for you to be able to make conversation with your listeners and take their questions. You should time yourself again and again as much as possible for you to master your own presentations, so that you won't lose your rhythm or flow during your presentation. And adding to that, you should rehearse. Like I said, if you don't want anyone to hear you speak on your presentations, you should do it yourself. But what I advise you to do is that you should give your presentations to family or friends. You should do it by yourself. You should do it as much as possible. And you should time those presentations, and you should rehearse it so that you don't get distracted or forget your lines, forget your talking points, the information that you want to give. In order to make it perfect, you have to rehearse your presentation as much as possible. Mastering the language is a little tricky part if you're giving your speech in another language that you're not really familiar with. This is the situation for me. So I'm talking in a lot slower voice. I'm trying to make my point clearer, but this is not always the case. More than possible, you will give those sales pitches, you will talk to your customers, you will talk to your investors in your native language, but that does not mean you should not have to master the language. What I mean by that is that you should know your lines, your points, your general text that you're going to give, and by rehearsing your presentation again and again, you will coincidentally master the language as well. What will this achieve is you won't have to go back to your slides, you don't have to look at your note cards as much as possible. And if a question comes to your way in the middle of your presentations, you will not lose your rhythm. That is what I mean, mastering the language is important. Memorizing the flow is another aspect to this. When I said before, you should plan and structure your presentation so that it has a specific order, as not to confuse your listeners. And by memorizing the flow, you will not lose your speed while presenting, because if you don't know what slide comes after next, you will get confused yourself. You won't be able to present your ideas as smoothly as you should. That is why memorizing the flow is very important after structuring your presentations most optimally as possible. Never go over time. That is what I actually meant also with timing your rehearsals. When you're giving a speech or presentations, you should try not to go over time. Because if you go over time, you will most probably bore your listeners. Maybe your customers need somewhere else to be. Your investors should attend a meeting. And then if you go over time, you won't be able to make your point. And some ideas might cut short. You have to cut yourself short. And this will lead for your listeners not to understand you clearly. And you won't be able to make your point as you want to do. That is why timing yourself is important, structuring your slides are very important, knowing your flow is important so that you can put yourself, so when you are presented with a timeline, you won't lose your rhythm or try to cut yourself short. Project your voice. Projecting your voice is very important. And now, again, I'm not specifically talking about online presentations because there are specific shortcomings that you might have to endure. Like in my case, my microphone does not work properly. So I am not able to project my voice to you as much as I want. I'm trying to optimize the resources that I have, but working with technology has these type of shortcomings. And in the specific case of face-to-face presentations, you should make sure that your voice is clear to everyone. Everyone can hear your voice. You won't lose yourself in the information that you are giving, because if you speak, I said rehearse and rehearse, but that does not mean speak from memory. Projecting your voice is important in that aspect, because if you try to speak from a memory, you have a specific script that you will not go off. That means your voice is very important to capturing the listener's attention also, because if you speak quietly, they won't be able to understand you clearly. And if you speak too aggressive, for example, people will be afraid of asking you questions. Or if you speak too loudly or yell even, then you will seem aggressive, and people will not be able to relate to you. People won't be wanting to work with you as much. Being a presence for stage is, again, an aspect you should make on face-to-face presentations. It is said that it is important for you to capture your audience with your presence. What that means is that you, how you look on the stage is very important. If you stand just in one place like a statue, you will lose your listeners' attention. If you do not utilize your hands, your gestures, your mimics, this will make you seem like a robot, and this is also will be a disadvantage for you, because your potential customers or investors will not be able to relate to you. So that you should, in face-to-face presentations, what you should do is that you should walk briskly, you should use your hands, your gestures, you should be energetic, and you should be presentable as well as approachable. And what you are trying to achieve here is you want those listeners to like you, because if they like you, they will listen to you, they will believe you. And that is why your presence on the stage is a very important aspect of your presentation. Dressing for the stage is another aspect of this. I know it is easy to say that, of course, I'm giving a presentations, I should be properly dressed. but that is not the case for everyone. So I wanted to share this specifically. If you're going on a stage, that you should be dressed appropriately for the occasion, because it is possible to underdress for the occasion, yeah, but it is also possible to overdress. So you should know your audience, and you will dress in a manner that make them comfortable. As well as you should be still looking professional. So it is important for you to pay attention where you're standing, how you're standing, what are you doing with your hands, your face, and how do you look? How do you present yourself to the audience as well? Checking your technology is another aspect of this. If you're going to give your presentation, for example, a firm that you're trying to work with, you should go there before the presentation time and check the technology that you're going to use, because you might encounter a technical difficulty, and this will waste your time, your client's time, your customer's time. And that is why it is important to check the technology that you're going to use before you actually started the presentation. You should be able to oversee it. If a device that you should use is broken, you should have time to get it fixed. Recording your presentations is not a necessary. It's not necessary. You don't have to record your presentations, but as you do whenever you can, it is important to get feedback. Because while you're presenting, you won't be able to see yourself from an outside perspective. But if you can record your presentations in an optimal manner, you will be able to watch it later, and you can see what you should do differently or what you did good. And this will help you to get better at presenting over time. And I know this is not always possible, because some people do not want their presentations to be recorded. For example, a possible investor might not want this presentation to be recorded. It is important for you to ask first and get permission to do so. And like I said, you don't have to do this, but I advise highly that you record your presentations whenever you can. Embracing your fear. This is an aspect of presentations, because most people do not like giving public speeches, and especially in your first time, you can be very stressed, and you can stumble on your words. You might feel bad because you have made simple mistakes. And at this point, embracing your fear is very important, because you should know that giving presentations is kind of a skill. You have to learn it, you have to practice it, you have to rehearse it. And it is important to know that it is okay to mistake. It is okay to make mistakes. You will make mistakes. You will stumble over your words, and maybe you will forget your lines. You will forget the flow of your presentation. These are most probably will happen, and it is important to know that it is okay. And most people will make those mistakes, and most people will have trouble speaking to many people in front of them. And you should know that these things are normal, and it will get better after you start giving your presentations over time. This is a skill, and it is required to study it, to practice it. And it is okay to not make it perfect every time. It is okay to not make it in the first time, a couple of times. You should know that these are all okay. And what is important is for you to trust yourself, trust your ideas, and trust your expertise. the show must go on is another aspect to this. While giving your presentations, like I said, you might make mistakes. You might lose your flow. You might get a questions that you don't know the answers to. What you should do this is that you have to be calm, you should be focused, you should give your attention to the presentation you're giving, you have to be present so that when you make an error or a simple mistake, you should not lose your focus, you should keep making your presentations. And thank you again for your time and patience. And right now I can get your questions if you have any, but since this is the last lesson of your training program, I think Mr. Orhan will make a short speech. I don't know if he is here right now. But if he is here, I will give the microphone to him. If he's not, I will give the microphone to Mr. Abdul Aziz. Again, thank you for your patience and for listening to me. If you have questions, like I said before, you can contact me at my email address that you're seeing right now. And this is it for me.